The Gaza Health Ministry reports that since October 7th, more than 42,709 Palestinians have been killed, including nearly 16,765 children. Updated figures also show that over 97,590 people have been injured, with more than 10,000 missing under the rubble. In the West Bank, updated figures show that at least 744 people, including around 160 children, have been killed, with more than 6,250 people injured. Furthermore, in the last 24 hours, Al Ramal Clinic fell victim to a targeted strike, where hundreds of displaced Gazans were sheltering. The number of deaths is yet to be verified, but many remain critically injured.
احنا كنا قاعدين في امان الله، فجأة صاروخين نزل على هالعيلة، ايش ذنب هالعيلة هذه البريئة؟ ايش ذنب زينة؟ ايش ذنب الأطفال؟
ما فتنا الا الصواريخ بالدب، على مين؟ كلهم اولاد صغار، ولا فيش الا نسوان تنتين اولاد صغار، زلمة كبير تلاقيه انه فيهم ما فيش ولا زلمة.
كنت ماشي في الشارع لو فجأة نزل صاروخ على مركز اللواء للنازحين، اقسم بالله شيء دمار، اطفال صغار مقطعة، ناس مقطعة، قالوا قطعونا، جوعونا، موتونا، وقفوا الحرب من شان الله، وقفوا الحرب يا عالم.
ما فيش، هذا كلنا احنا هنا في مركز اللواء، هذا كلنا مدنيين، ما فيش حتى العسكري يعني بتاع شرطة مدني ممنوع يخش عندنا، احنا ممنوعين نخش عندنا.
Lebanon is navigating a delicate balance as it faces a potential Israeli invasion. In recent meetings, Lebanon's army commander reaffirmed the nation's position that the military will not directly engage with Israel. However, the Lebanese army has no plans to withdraw from its positions in the south, even as Israel's bombardment intensifies. Over the past week, the army has withdrawn some troops from observation posts along the Blue Line, the de facto border with Israel, to reduce their exposure to Israeli fire. An Israeli strike recently killed a Lebanese soldier, marking the first instance of the army retaliating since the start of the conflict. The United States, a key backer of the Lebanese armed forces, has been pressuring Israel to avoid attacking Lebanon's military. At the same time, Hezbollah, significantly stronger than the national army, continues its fierce battle with Israeli forces along the southern border. Amidst the violence, opinions in Lebanon are divided. Some citizens, like an elderly man in Beirut, urge Hezbollah to consider withdrawal to avoid Lebanon facing the same devastation as Gaza. Others, like displaced Lebanese from the south, remain resolute in their support for Hezbollah, vowing to never surrender.
أنا بقول له لحزب الله إذا ما قدران يكفي المعركة بربع وبوجود لا لازم يعلن انسحابه ويعلن خسارته، ومش عيب الخسارة يعني ويشفع على هالعالم اللي بالطرقات يعني بالدرجة الأولى، مش بنعمل إبادة مثل ما عملوا بغزة مثلا.
يعني تهديد نتنياهو هو بيعرف يعني إنه نحن أبداً ما بنستسلم، يعني فايتين نحن بالموضوع، يعني في صمود كبير ومثل ما شايفين نحن المقاومة وعدتنا بالنصر، ويعني أملنا نحن بالنصر، ما في تراجع أبداً.
As the conflict intensifies, the army's careful response could determine whether it emerges as a trusted peacekeeping force or fades into the background of the country's complex political landscape.
In the war-torn city of Khan Yunis, southern Gaza residents are committed to preserving their Palestinian heritage. The historic Barkuk Castle, a Mamluk-era structure dating back to 1387, stands as a symbol of resilience amid destruction. Local resident Mohammed Shat has taken it upon himself to clear the rubble from the ancient castle, which was severely damaged earlier this year.
هذا المكان بناء 1387 ميلادي، بناه الملك باقوق، وسميت هذه قلعة باقوق. وهذا هو المكان، هو المعلم التاريخي لمدينة خان يونس، حيث أنها سميت مدينة خان يونس لأجل هذا المكان. قمت بتنظيف هذا المكان لعدة يعني إرجاع المكان هذا من جديد، وإحياء الذكرى وإحياء التراث الفلسطيني وإحياء معالم خان يونس، وكي أعيد مجد هذا المكان.
Alongside efforts to physically preserve Khan Yunis's historical landmarks, artist and researcher Ramadan Ahmed has spent decades documenting the region's history through rock carvings. Working in his studio, Ramadan carves detailed depictions with representations of Canaanite buildings and displaced Gazans etched into stone.
كان هنا متحف وكانت هنا حياة وكانت هنا ما يثبت الهوية الفلسطينية من آثار وتراث ومنحوتات وكتب ومجلدات وكل ما يثبت الهوية الفلسطينية. طبعا تم حرقة المكان بعد ما تم أيضا، يعني أنا أعتقد أنه تم فقدان الكثير، حوالي 2000 قطعة أثرية كان هنا في هذا المتحف. طبعا كانت قلعة برقوق التي عمرها مئات السنين كانت هي ملتقى الحضارات. هذا المكان كان ملتقى الحضارات في العالم. طبعا كانت في خان يونس هذا المكان مجمع، كانت هنا الطريق من الشام إلى مصر إلى الخليج إلى السعودية.
Amidst the chaos and destruction, both men are determined to ensure that the cultural heritage of Gaza endures. Whether through clearing debris from historical sites or engraving the memories of people onto rocks, their efforts stand as a testament to the resilience of the Palestinian spirit. As the war continues to shape the landscape, these preservationists fight to safeguard a heritage that stretches back centuries, refusing to let it be lost.
Islamophobic incidents across the UK have surged by 365% since October 2023, according to recent data from the Islamophobia Response Unit. London has been particularly affected, with 576 cases of physical assault, abuse, threats and vandalism reported between October 7, 2023 and February 7, 2024, according to Tel Mama Report 2024. Alongside these troubling acts of violence, online hate speech has emerged as a significant concern, accounting for more than half of the incidents recorded during this period. This surge reflects the increasing role of digital platforms in spreading Islamophobic rhetorics. To explore the impact of these attacks further, Islam Channel spoke with the Chief Executive of Faith Associates, who recently published their findings titled A Report of Incidents Against Mosques and Muslim Institutions in the UK. How has the rise of Islamophobia during this period been linked to misinformation and far-right extremist ideologies and the attacks on mosques?
There seems to be an absolute direct correlation between reported hate crimes around the country against people and the subsequent rise of attacks on Muslim infrastructure or infrastructure which identifies with Muslims. Obviously, mosques are particularly iconic and they have been attacked quite regularly, unfortunately, over these past 12 years. So the online radicalization of far-right people, as well as the Islamophobic attacks around the country, directly correlates with the attacks on mosques in the UK.
One of the things that you mentioned in the report is Islamophobia. We know it's a big thing and it's a big concern for the Muslim community. So my question is, what are the main challenges associated with defining Islamophobia in the UK?
Yes, it's a good question, and we did raise that in the report. In the report, we've identified that there is obviously no definition, official definition by the government. Police forces around the country are monitoring and recording hate-based crime differently in different regions, and we feel quite strongly that there needs to be a definition or a framework where, for instance, in particular, police can record this crime and register this crime in a format and in a frequency that is recognized across the country. I think once that has happened, it'll be easy to monitor, to see the scale of the problem, and also to address that problem in a commensurate way to the challenges that the Muslims are facing. Obviously, you're aware that the government has rejected the APPJ definition that was there. The government said that they would like to define it itself. We welcome that. We think it's a good idea if the government wants to redefine it or define it itself. I think it should work with the Muslim community to come up with a definition to help them monitor and evaluate the scale of the problem. I mean, let me give you an example. I mean, if you take the incident from, say, when you had the Southport riots, just in that month alone, on average, we would get between, say, 7 to 20 responses a month. In that month, we had over 300. So you can see that the percentages are huge. Over the period of time of that, within 3 weeks of the Southport attack, over 500 mosques asked for help from the government regarding man guarding. So 500 out of nearly 2,000, significant number, asked for help. Many mosques took the responsibility of their own. They didn't ask the government for help, they did it themselves. So we feel that, and in terms of the numbers over the past 12 months, according to some figures, 200 to 300% increase in violent attacks or Islamophobic attacks against Muslims and infrastructure of the Muslim community. So you can see a significant rise, and hence we felt the need to write this report, which is available on faithassociates.co.uk website.
The race for the next Conservative Party leader has narrowed to two right-wing candidates, Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick, after a surprising final vote saw James Cleverly, the centrist frontrunner, eliminated. Badenoch topped the final round with 42 votes, followed by Jenrick with 41, while Cleverly, who had led earlier, dropped to 37.
Right, thank you for that warm reception. As chairman of the 1922 committee and returning officer in the leadership contest, I can now give you the results of the fourth and final parliamentary ballot, which is good news for all of us. So 120 MPs voted, and I can report the numbers of votes for each candidate as follows. Kemi Badenoch, 42 votes. James Cleverly, 37 votes. And Robert Jenrick, 41 votes. So, as a result of that ballot, James Cleverly is eliminated from the contest, and Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick now go forward to the ballot of members. Thank you very much for your attendance.
This unexpected outcome left many Conservatives, particularly those from the moderate One Nation wing, dismayed, as they are now left with a choice between two populist candidates. Tactical voting is suspected to have played a role, with some MPs possibly switching support from Cleverly to Badenoch, or Jenrick misjudging Cleverly's position. Both candidates represent the party's right wing, with Jenrick focusing on migration and promising to pull the UK out of the European Convention on Human Rights, while Badenoch centres on cultural issues and institutional reform. Jenrick has taken a hard stance on migration, framing it in Brexit-style terms, whereas Badenoch offers what some would say a more measured approach. However, with her recent comments about Muslims, one could say that the Conservative Party is destined for an Islamophobic leadership, one way or another.
It is time to tell the truth. The truth about our party, the truth about our politics, the truth about our future. For too long, politicians have been scared of the truth. For too long, politicians have hidden behind spin. For too long, politicians have told the public what they wanted to hear and then done their own thing. Well, I say enough.
Labour and Liberal Democrats have expressed delight over the contest's outcome, seeing it as a choice between two failed former ministers. Labour accused both candidates of being key figures in Tory failure, while the Lib Dems mocked the party for its limited options. Some Tory MPs have raised concerns about Badenoch's leadership style, citing her reputation for being abrasive and divisive, while Jenrick's populist turn has also unsettled moderates. The final decision will be made by Conservative members, with the result announced on the 2nd of November.
Hurricane Milton has torn through Florida, bringing tornadoes, floods, and storm surges. More than 3 million homes and businesses are without power, and there have been a number of deaths reported on the Atlantic coast. In St. Petersburg, on the west coast of Florida state, the water supply has been cut. A crane crashed into Times newspaper building, and the roof of Major League Baseball stadium, Tropicana Field, was ripped off. Milton is now moving away from Florida into the Atlantic Ocean, but hurricane-force winds and rain are continuing. Earlier today, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis provided another warning to the residents.
Now, at this point, it's too dangerous to evacuate safely, so you have to shelter in place and just hunker down. Hurricane Milton is currently in the process of making landfall in Sarasota County as a Category 3 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 120 miles per hour.
In Plant City, east of Tampa, 35 people were rescued from high water, and residents have been told to stay out of toxic floodwaters. Often, the most dangerous part of a hurricane is the storm surge. This is the wall of water driven on shore by hurricane-force winds which can cause catastrophic flooding, particularly when combined with extreme rainfall. Even as the hurricane barrels away from the east coast, it is difficult to assess what the storm surge has actually been. There are few official observation sites, and the situation is clearly still too dangerous to view firsthand.
As Hurricane Milton barrels toward Florida, President Joe Biden lashed out at former President Donald Trump for spreading misinformation about the government's hurricane response efforts. Speaking at a White House briefing on Wednesday, Biden accused Trump of leading a reckless campaign of disinformation surrounding the federal response of both Hurricane Helene, which devastated the southeast, and the incoming storm.
For the last few weeks, there's been a reckless, irresponsible, and relentless promotion of disinformation and outright lies that are disturbing people. It's undermining confidence in the incredible rescue and recovery work that has already been taken and will continue to be taken. And it's harmful to those who need help the most. There is simply no place for this to happen. Former President Trump has led the onslaught of lies. Assertions have been made that property is being confiscated. That's simply not true. They're saying people impacted by these storms will receive $750 in cash and no more. That's simply not true. They're saying the money is needed for this crisis is being diverted to migrants. What a ridiculous thing to say. It's not true. You know, all this disinformation going out about how, you know, we're devoting all this money to migrants and even one congresswoman suggesting that I control the weather and implying that I'm sending it to red states. I mean, it's stuff off the wall. It's like out of a comic book.
The president also mocked what he considered bizarre conspiracy theories spread by Trump allies, including Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who claimed the federal government could control the weather. The comments come as the US presidential election edges closer with less than a month to go until polling stations open. With millions of Floridians under evacuation orders, Biden promised full federal support for those in Milton's path.
Turkey has blocked access to instant messaging platform Discord in line with a court decision after the platform refused to share information demanded by Ankara, Turkish authorities said on Wednesday. Discord is a US-based social media platform that is very popular among video game fans. It has approximately 150 million users. Justice Minister Yilmaz Tunç said an Ankara court decided to block access to Discord from Turkey due to sufficient suspicion that crimes of child sexual abuse and obscenity had been committed by some using the platform. The block comes after the public outrage in Turkey caused by the murder of 2 women by a 19-year-old man in Istanbul this month. Content on social media showed Discord users subsequently praising the killing. Transportation and Infrastructure Minister Abdulkadir Oraloglu said that the nature of the Discord platform makes it difficult for authorities to monitor and intervene when illegal or criminal content is shared, he told reporters in Parliament. Security personnel cannot go through the content. We can only intervene when users complain to us about content shared there. On Tuesday, Russia's communications regulator blocked Discord for violating Russian law after previously fining the company for failing to remove banned content, the TASS news agency reported.
2 months after launching a bold offensive into Russia's Kursk region, Ukrainian soldiers on the Eastern Front are beginning to question the operation's long-term effectiveness. While the incursion boosted morale and diverted some Russian forces from the Donbass, many on the ground report little change in the situation. Alexander, a soldier stationed near Toretsk, expressed his frustration.
В той момент, коли почалася операція, на собі ми не відчули цього, що противник відтягнувся, тут наступ так і продовжився, бої тут активні і велися. Можливо, з якихось інших напрямків, можливо, з резервів, противник відтягнувся туди. Суттєвих змін ми тут не відчули. З однієї сторони, для мене це дуже добре, що ми відтягнули ворога на їхню сторону, ми його віддвинули. З іншої сторони, зараз почалися дуже активні обстріли прикордоння самого міста Суми. І для мене особисто це дуже зараз болюча тема. Кожного дня читаю новини, бачу, що у рідне місто прилітає. Така ситуація.
The Kursk offensive launched in early August was Kiev's largest assault on Russian territory since World War II. One of its primary objectives was to draw Moscow's focus away from eastern Ukraine, where Russian forces have made steady gains. However, analysts suggest that the offensive has not slowed the Russian advance as much as hoped. Recent data indicates that Russia captured 477 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory in August, marking its largest gains in nearly a year. President Volodymyr Zelensky has lauded the operation for proving that Ukraine can take the fight to Russian soil. However, as Russia's offensive accelerates, some experts question the long-term viability of the Kursk incursion. As Ukraine's Western allies prepare for pivotal elections, including a potential return of Donald Trump to the US presidency, Kiev is under pressure to show that its operations have a strategic impact. Holding Russian territory could improve Ukraine's position in future negotiations, though talks remain a distant possibility. For now, Ukrainian soldiers on the front line continue to wonder what comes next.